You booked it, episode 188. What's going on, everyone? Thank you for joining me today on You Booked It, the #1 podcast where you learn how to create a successful entertainment career. Over the past few months, I have been working in the background putting together a little something that is pretty cool, and it is finally ready to share with you. I am excited to announce the You Booked It community. It is your go-to career resource and the only platform worldwide that covers the entire entertainment industry. From unlimited masterclasses to building industry relationships to chatting with Tony winners, Emmy nominees, and past podcast guests, the community has everything you need to navigate a successful entertainment career. Check it out for yourself. Head over to youbookeditpodcast.com/community or tap the link in the description of this episode, and we'll see you inside. And now, let's meet today's guest. Okay, let's get started. I am excited to introduce my guest today, Chris Gaunt. Are you ready for this, Chris?
I am so ready for it, Dane.
Right on. Chris is an American actor, producer, and writer who has performed in films, commercials, and music videos. He is known for his work in the films Follow Her, Daydreams of a Drowning Girl, Catching Up, and La Transaction. Beyond his film work, though, Chris is a big believer of giving back to the community. He is a board member and volunteer for Wolves for Warriors, Inc., an organization that finds dogs in need of a home and pairs them with veterans who have served our country. He is also an active volunteer for North Country Wild Care, a nonprofit that rehabs injured wild animals with the goal of being able to release them back into the wild, and Amanda's House, which is a home that family members and the sick can stay at for no charge while getting medical attention at the hospital. Chris, that is a quick intro of who you are and what you've done, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, fill in the gaps, and a little bit more about what you do as a professional in the entertainment industry?
Sounds great, Dane, and thanks again for having me and doing such a great job on these podcasts. Really appreciate your support. I'm a busy man, and I'm always on the go, go, go. So what I do is I act, produce, and write full-time. And I had somewhat of a circuitous route to get here, Dane. I spent 32 years in the corporate America business world prior to me proactively departing that world about 3 years ago in order to pursue my passion of acting, producing, and writing full time. And I have to tell you, since I proactively departed, it literally has been a nonstop journey for 36 months. And I've had a chance to, as you mentioned, act in a bunch of movies. So started off like many actors do, young in the business, with student films, student thesis films. These are college films. Also short films, commercials, music videos, and now have worked my way up and into feature films. And similarly, I produce films. I have produced a number of short films, and now I'm really happy and proud to announce that I've been knee-deep for the last 11 months producing a full feature film called Follow Her. And then I've written, in all the spare time, or anytime I'm not acting and producing, I've written a bunch of screenplays that have been a real fun and a fun journey for me and a way to scratch that creative itch as well.
Oh, very cool. And how unique is that, your previous life of corporate America into the arts? It's so fantastic. I'm really excited to get into this a bit.
Thanks.
And let's go into our first section here. And Chris, look, I am a sucker for a good quote. What is your favorite quote you'd like to share with everyone?
My favorite quote, and I have this plastered in about 4 different places throughout our home, is do what you think you can't. Do what you think you can't. And when you develop that mindset, and again, if I ever forget, again, I have it plastered around our home, so I'll never forget. It's amazing, Dane, what you can do when you develop that kind of go for it attitude. So again, favorite quote is do what you think you can't. And when I developed that mindset, it was basically, and still is, life transforming. It's been a transformative process.
Yeah, Especially, I mean, that could be very applicable to your transition into the arts field, but really it's about always pushing yourself, expanding that where that comfort zone bubble is, because the more you push against it, the
Exactly.
bigger it keeps getting, and more opportunities come your way, et cetera, et cetera. It just keeps, I think that's a fantastic way to live. And if you're always just a bit uncomfortable, you're doing the right thing.
Exactly. And I think if you're a bit uncomfortable, there's another saying, if you're not growing, you're dying. And I do believe that. So maybe that's another good quote that I'll have to plaster around my home. But I do believe that if you're constantly stretching and you're putting yourself by design in uncomfortable positions, you have to grow. You grow or die. And I like that. And I'm getting more and more used to being in uncomfortable positions. First, you gain incredible experience by forcing yourself to be a little uncomfortable. And also, it forces you to stretch and grow. And it's amazing what you can accomplish when you develop that mindset.
For sure. And it's also a learned thing, right? By continuing to do that and pushing against that, you get better at that. This also applies for people for going into auditions or submitting for things. The more you do it, the better you get at it. And then how, I guess, the level of how much you can push that discomfort in a way can get greater. And you can take on bigger projects because you go, you know what? I already know that I can handle this level of unknown. Let's push it a little bit further now because you've conditioned yourself to be able to do that.
Perfectly said, Dane. And I think a great example for, I'm not a young man, I'm a middle-aged man, but young in the business, still relatively young in the business. But you start off with maybe a student film or a college student thesis film, which is important to them, but it's ground level in the acting profession. And it gives you an opportunity to cut your teeth and get you in front of the camera and crew and experience. And you graduate yourself from that. So then, okay, I've done that. I've done that a bunch of times and I've succeeded. So I'm feeling comfortable with that. So now I'll try a short film and a number of short films, and I feel comfortable with that. Now I'll try a music video and a commercial. And then the other thing I notice is that if you put yourself out there and you're willing to do that, you start getting some phone calls. I've gotten 3 or 4 calls just in the last couple of months where people are approaching me to do a commercial spot or to do a short film or to do a feature film, audition for a feature film. And 3 years ago, that would not have happened.
Yeah, of course. And you said if you're not growing, you're dying. Have you read the book by Jeff Olson, The Slight Edge?
I have.
Yeah, same concept. So good.
Same concept. And there's also an amazing football coach. If any of your listeners or you may be a sports fan, there's an older football coach who's been around forever. His name is Lou Holtz. And he was an unbelievable coach for Notre Dame and then South Carolina. And one of his favorite sayings is that he used to tell his players, and by the way, Lou Holtz is probably a 5'0" and weighs about 135 pounds soaking wet. And he's managing these behemoth men. And he's the general of the field. And he would push them to championship level and get them to out of their comfort zone constantly by doing what you think you can't. And if you're not growing, you're dying. And now, as an older man, he's still doing it. And every day, that's his credo. That's what he's thinking about. He's constantly pushing himself to expand his horizons and do what he thinks he can't do. And as a result, he's growing. And I want to live the rest of my life, whether it's a day or 35, 40 more years, God willing, I want to live my life just like that.
Yeah, 100%. And let's get into this next section here. And Chris, of course, you're an entertainer. I'm an entertainer. And I think that you'd agree that this industry can be one of the most subjective, brutally honest, and personally emotional industries in existence. And you know as well as I that in order to create and have a successful career in this industry, like you're having now, takes a lot of dedication and hard work. And while, yes, there is an outrageous amount of fun and excitement being an entertainer, there are also our fair share of obstacles, challenges, and failures we're going to experience and we're going to have to move forward through. So tell us, what is one key challenge, obstacle, or failure you've experienced in your career, and how did you come out the other side better because of it?
Excellent, Dane, and thanks for the question. And to your point, I think this entire business is so incredibly challenging. And I think the good news is that I had 32 years in the very intense corporate business world where it was very challenging. So I feel like I was fairly well prepared to come into this business knowing head on that it's a challenge. So I think the one key challenge for me that maybe is slightly different than my previous professional life is just handling the rejection that is very common or commonplace in this industry. Whether you're auditioning or you're vying for a production job or a producing job, or you're submitting a screenplay, whatever it may be, this business is full of rejection. And the thing that I had to get used to very quickly, one is to develop a thick skin, and I have, but the other is not hearing anything. And what I mean by that is in, the business world and perhaps other professions, if you're presenting an idea or a concept or a widget or what have you, you're probably going to either hear a yes or you're going to hear a no. Unlike the entertainment business, and you know this, when you audition, you don't often hear anything. So if you get the role, you're elated because you get the call back, and then ultimately you're hired and you have the role. However, if you put your best foot forward and you're doing your absolute best and you hear nothing, the sound of crickets, that took me a while to get used to. And I remember early on in my career, I would try to reach out to casting agents that I had auditioned for, trying to seek to understand, gee, why didn't I get this particular role? And 99.9% of the time, they're not going to, because they don't have the time. They won't get back to you and let you know. And so I think that for me, not hearing anything perhaps was the toughest thing. I think I could have handled just a flat out no better, but when it's the sound of crickets, it was tough to get used to. But now I understand that. So I think my lesson, Dane, moving forward is don't take it personally. Continue to develop that thick skin. Know that it's a very subjective business and put your absolute best foot forward. And another kind of sports analogy, you leave it all on the field for every single audition. And if you're well prepared, you leave it all on the field and you do your best. You let the chips fall where they may.
Exactly right. It's out of your hands, right? That's, I think, one of the biggest lessons in this industry is realizing how much you do not have control over, especially when it comes to auditioning for whatever it might be. And you just got to go out there and be confident with the work that you do and do you the best you can. And when you're done, that's it. Don't try to get caught up in the what ifs because they're so far out of your control. It's not worth the thought or the stress. You just got to do what you do and be confident in that.
Exactly. And I think if you're well prepared, and you have to be well prepared, and know that if you're not well prepared, there's 100 guys in this case that may be just like me that are right behind me that are either prepared or more prepared that want the job just as bad as I do. And you have to make sure that you bring it, and you have really no one to blame but yourself. And it's not necessarily a blame game, but if you get the role, if you're auditioning for an acting job, great. And if not, you can self-assess why you may have not gotten it. But oftentimes, to your point, and you hit it right on the head, it's out of your control. So it's such a subjective business. And as a screenwriter, I know when I'm writing something in my mind, Dane, I've already formulated, what will this character, what will he or she look like? How will they present themselves? How will I dress them? What will be their mannerism, their speaking tone? I have all of that already fleshed out. So as I'm auditioning for roles, I get it. So I can put myself in the casting director's position because I've been there myself as a writer. I know what I want. And oftentimes, to your point, that is out of your control. You are who you are. So you prepare and you, again, let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, so good. And let's move on to a time that I like to call your spotlight moment. That one moment in time you realized, yes, I'm going to be an entertainer for a living. Or maybe it was, yes, this is what I need to be doing as an entertainer. Tell us about that.
This is so exciting. And I had a chance to, my wife actually had a chance to join me on this gig, on this acting job. And this was only a few months ago, actually. So I had been doing this nonstop, like I said, for 3 years, virtually nonstop. And I had an opportunity to work in LA with an incredible actress who's been in the business for over 40 years. And Dane, her name is Diane Franklin. And you and your listeners may recognize that name, and you definitely recognize her face. But she's best known for films like The Last American Virgin, Better Off Dead, Amityville, the Amityville series, and then Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And I had a chance to spend several hours on a very intense scene, I was able to hold my own with someone who has spent most of her life in front of the camera. She started as a young girl doing commercials, and then she's done countless films, and she's still acting, and she's fantastic. And I remember as my wife and I were going back when the scene was done, and it was a long day, and it was a very heated scene. It was an awesome scene, and she was amazing on set. I loved working with her. I remember my wife and I talking about it, and my wife and I debriefing the scene, and knowing that coming from her, that I had held my own with a seasoned veteran that had been doing this for over 40 years. So to me, it was incredibly exciting, very validating that this is, in fact, is what I want to do the rest of my life.
Oh, so good. And let's piggyback on that real quick and talk about your number one booked it moment. Walk us through that day, the audition and callbacks, if they happen to be a part of it. But what was going on in your life, and what about that moment makes it your favorite booked it moment?
Yeah, my favorite booked it moment, Dane, without question, is I had a chance about a year ago to link up with an incredible two-time Emmy Award-winning director. Her name is Sylvia Kaminer, and she's done some fantastic work, nominated 4 times for Emmy. She's won 2. We were working together and in pre-production on another feature that we were trying to get off the ground. And after that discussion, she reached out to me and let me know that they were midway through filming a terrific psychological thriller called Follow Her. And she asked me if I'd like to come on initially, Dane, as an associate producer. And of course, I said yes, because I love the synopsis of the film. It's a fantastic thriller. I love thrillers. It had to do with social media and our obsession with social media and being liked. And the synopsis was amazing. She had a fantastic crew and a fantastic cast linked to the project. So I immediately said yes to that. And through a ton of hard work and merit, I was bumped from an AP, an associate producer, a couple of months ago to an executive producer. So I thought that is just really validating that if you really bust your tail and do the work and put in the hours, and your peer group around you sees that happening. I didn't ask for that promotion. They called me, her and the creator, Danny Barker, and they offered me the executive producer position. And I've been doing that now on this film for the last three months or so. And proud to say that we are now in post-production. We filmed the entire film in New York, got it in right before COVID, right in the first part of March. It's in post-production right now in LA, and the world should be able to enjoy this psychological thriller, Follow Her, by fall or winter of 2021. So we can't wait to bring it to the world. It's so good.
Oh, fantastic. Keep me posted when that thing drops. I'd love to watch it.
I also had a small role in it, so that was fun to work with some
Oh, very
terrific
cool.
actors and be directed by Sylvia. I'm also working on another project with her, and that it's a short that we're going to have blossom into a feature as well. So that's the next project I'll be working with her, in addition to this sequel to Follow Her, which is being written as we speak.
Very cool. That leads us right into the next question, which
Yes.
is talking about the present and what are you working on right now? What are you looking forward to? And it's a weird time, right? We're amidst this global pandemic. How do you see the entertainment industry moving forward in the next couple of years?
Yeah, it's such a great question, and it is such an interesting time to be in the entertainment world, and I'm very aware of the challenges that so many in this industry face. But I want to give maybe just a shout out of hope out there that there's still work to be done. Creators create, right? So if you act, regardless of the circumstance, if you produce, if you write, just because there's a global pandemic, we as entertainers and creators can still do what we absolutely love to do. It may look a little different, but we can do that. And some specific examples, Dane, include, as I mentioned, Follow Her, the psychological thriller that is in post-production now. Despite COVID, we are still doing everyday post-production work in LA on that film to get it ready for the world to enjoy by fall or winter of 2021. The Follow Her film. The second piece of that is I'll be working again with Sylvia Kaminer and Danny Barker, who wrote Follow Her and starred in it, on their sequel. So I'll be involved as a producer or executive producer on that film as well. That film is being written as we speak, and we can't wait to begin pre-production on the sequel. I'm working with a fantastic creator, Katie Johnson, on a short film, If I Could Tell You, and it happens to be a film where It is about her facing and convalescing her mother that was diagnosed with cancer when she was 15. And interestingly enough, she approached me to come on as an actor and a producer on this film, Dane, and we shared the exact same story. So I lost my dad at a very young age, like she did the same disease. We both helped our particular parent. She had a mom who passed away, I had a father. So it was unbeknownst to her, she did not know this when she reached out to me to be in the film and help her produce it, that our stories were so similar. So to me,
Wow.
that's the moon and the sun lining up in the right way that we could work on a project like this. And she's fantastic. So I can't wait for that to kick off. We're going to begin filming in just a few weeks. So that'll be great. And then Dane, I'm a worker bee, so I'm auditioning like crazy. Even though we're still in the midst of a global pandemic, auditioning is still going on. So I do one self-tape after another. If it's a self-tape that leads to a live audition, I'm doing that. And I'm auditioning for features and shorts every single week. I'm on virtually every actor portal, and I'm constantly looking for interesting roles that I want to sink my teeth into. So the work goes on. So I want to give everyone hope that just because there's a global pandemic, the work is still out there and we can still create and entertain.
Yes, the work goes on. So well said. And it is time to move on to one of my favorite sections in the interview. I call it the Grease Lightning Round. I am going to ask you a handful of questions. I want you to answer them as quickly and concisely as possible, one after another. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, first question. What was the one thing holding you back from committing to a career as an entertainer?
I think the one thing, Dane, was I going to be good enough to ever get booked? And the answer is I've had a lot of bookings. You just keep trying to get better, one job at a time, just a little bit better with each opportunity.
Yes. Second question. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
Control what you can control. Do your absolute best and then let the chips fall where they may.
Yes. Third question. What is something that is working for you right now? Or if you'd like to go pre-COVID, what was working for you before our industry went on pause?
I think the thing that's working for me now, Dane, is my work ethic. I have a mindset, and I always have, of refusing to be outworked and refusing to be out-hustled.
Yes. Fourth question. What is your best resource, whether that is a book, a movie, a YouTube video, maybe a podcast or piece of technology you found is helping your career right now?
Researching and reading about creators who, despite incredible odds, persevered and made it happen. One quick recent example is a film I watched a few days ago called Herself by an amazing writer and lead Irish actress, Claire Dunn. A 6-year journey from synopsis to film. It was so well written, so well acted, and now there's a big Oscar buzz. So she's gone from virtually no one knowing about her or hearing about her to potentially winning an Oscar. So to me, that is
Wow.
incredibly exhilarating and validating.
Wow. So good. I'll have to check that out.
It's an amazing
And
movie.
yeah. And the fifth question. If you had to start your career from scratch, but you still had all the knowledge and experience you've collected from your career in this industry, what would you do or not do? Would you do anything differently, or would you keep it the same?
I would say, Dane, focus on getting good as your number one priority. And there's so many ways that you can focus on getting good, but learn and then practice your craft each and every day. When you think about musicians in front of thousands of fans playing in an amphitheater, they didn't just pick up the guitar or the microphone. They practiced like crazy. When you think of professional athletes playing in front of thousands and thousands of people, they practice every single day. And being an entertainer is the exact same thing. You can't expect to perform at your peak if you're not practicing your craft and learning and growing every day.
Yes, so true. And the last question. What is the golden nugget knowledge drop you've learned from your successful career in this industry you'd like to leave with our listeners?
Treat your career as if it's a business, which it is, and treat it as though you're the CEO of that business, because you are. You are the CEO. You are the master and commander of your own career. And if you develop that mindset now, great things can happen. Don't expect others to do it for you. You take the lead. You manage your career. You are the CEO of your own career.
So well said. So often we forget that, it's called show business for a reason, right?
It's a business.
The business side of it is a real thing, and you have to treat it as such. Yes, the business side of this industry for many creatives and artists is not the thing we're most naturally drawn to, but it's integral to the success of your career, the longevity of your career. And the wonderful thing I love about the business side of things is that it's a lot more objective than the subjectivity of our artistry, right?
Well said.
There are rules. It's pretty black and white, how money's made, how taxes are done, business, they're all laws and rules for it. So take the time to learn them. And once you know them, you're pretty good, you're pretty set, but you got to put the time in.
Especially if you want to create your own material, Dane, and watch that take shape on film, for an example. It is a business, and very little can happen without the money. It is a business like any other business. It takes the money and the resources to get something off the ground. So I think if you develop that mindset as quickly as possible and understand that it is a business, very similar to all other businesses, that will help and go a long way.
Yeah, 100%. And to wrap up this interview, Chris, it is time to give yourself a plug. Where can we find you? How do our listeners connect with you? Is there anything you want to promote?
Yeah, Dane, thank you. You can find me. I'm everywhere on social media. So I'm on Facebook. It's Christopher Gaunt on Facebook. I'm on Instagram and Twitter. Chris Gaunt Actor on Instagram and Twitter. I have my own YouTube channel. I'm on LinkedIn. In terms of a plug, we've been working so hard. This project, Follow Her, this terrific psychological thriller I was speaking about, this took shape. The synopsis was written back in 2017. Here we are in 2021, and we're still working away on it, which is very common in the indie world. It is a slow sled to get there, but I am so proud of the perseverance and dedication of Sylvia Kaminer and Danny Barker, the two lead creators on this project. I'm so proud to be the executive producer of this film. So please go to the Follow Her Facebook page and give it a like. You can check out a nice promo reel on the film. It's laced with terrific actors, great director, and an Oscar-nominated director of photography, Luke Geisbuehler. So it really is well done in terms of cast, crew, and writing. We can't wait to bring the film to the world to check it out.
Fantastic. And for everyone listening out there, I've put the links to everything Chris just said into the description of this episode so you can easily connect with him. And also, be sure to share this podcast with your fellow entertainers, coaches, teachers, arts and entertainment educators, and anyone you know aspiring to create a career in this industry. You Booked It is the #1 resource of expertise on how to actually create a successful entertainment career. Case in point, everything Chris just gave us today, his very unique journey through this industry, so much to learn from. And if you enjoyed this episode, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next guest. Chris, it has been such a pleasure chatting with you, getting to know you a bit. Thank you so much for being here.
Dane, thank you so much. You're doing a great service for folks like myself and others in the entertainment business. And I really appreciate your dedication to the craft and your preparation, and not only for the interview, but getting me prepared to speak with you as well. You are fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
You're great.
Thank you so much for listening today. If you enjoyed this episode and want more like it, be sure to smash that subscribe button. Also, be sure to jump inside the brand new You Booked It community. Head over to youbookeditpodcast.com/community or tap the link in the show notes right now and take your career to the next level. Inside, you'll connect with your people and develop real industry relationships, which, by the way, this podcast has discovered is the #1 fundamental that creates long-term career success. Discover opportunities and join in on over 20 upcoming live masterclasses. Tap the link in the description of this episode, and I'll see you there.